Imagine a high-level politician trying to completely dismantle his greatest rival's three-decade legacy.
Right.
But, he's doing it while casually standing next to a paving machine.
Yeah, just right out there in the open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, fresh asphalt, hard hats, heavy construction equipment everywhere. It's wild. But that is the very real, very visceral scene we are unpacking today for this deep dive.
It really is a masterclass in using physical infrastructure to wage a deeply personal political war.
It really is. And because Nigerian politics can get so fiercely partisan, and the source material we're looking at today contains some incredibly charged, very personal political attacks, I want to set a quick ground rule for you, the listener.
Yeah, that is a really important caveat before we get into this.
Right. So we aren't here to take sides. We're not endorsing any candidate or validating these attacks. We're strictly looking under the hood of the political machinery today.
Exactly. Our goal is simply to unpack the claims, explore the historical context, and analyze the underlying strategies presented in these documents. We're just looking at the mechanics of power.
We are just your guides through the political wilderness. And the mission today is to deconstruct this blistering public attack by Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, against former Vice President Atiku Abubakar.
Right, and it's a huge feud.
Oh, massive. We are going to explore how a single primary defeat back in 2022 mutated into this sprawling shadow campaign, and what this feud reveals about political survival as the country looks toward the 2027 election.
It's going to be a fascinating breakdown.
So to frame this, people always compare high-stakes politics to a game of chess.
Sure, the classic analogy.
Right, but looking at this rivalry, I mean, it's less like traditional chess and more like a multi-decade match where the players regularly flick the board in a rage, scatter the pieces everywhere, but somehow manage to keep all their pieces in play while screaming at each other across the room.
That is a perfect way to describe it. The board gets flipped, but the game never actually stops.
Never.
And, to understand how they play this game, we really should look at the spark that ignited this current media firestorm.
Yeah, let's break down the scene from Thursday. Nyesom Wike is out conducting an inspection tour of ongoing road infrastructure projects in Abuja.
Right.
And as the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, he is essentially functioning as the governor of the capital city.
Wow.
So he's out there, he's highly visible, surrounded by all this evidence of, getting things done.
The optics are very intentional.
Very. And he uses this exact moment to launch a brutal counterattack against Atiku Abubakar.
Well, and the context for the attack is key here. Just 2 days prior, Atiku gave an interview claiming the current administration has done, and this is a quote, nothing positive for Nigerians.
Which is a pretty bold claim to make. But, why go through the trouble of the hard hats and bulldozers, though? I mean, if a rival attacks your administration, why not just drop a scathing press release from an air-conditioned office and call it a day?
Think about the split screen it creates for the public. A press release is just abstract words on a page.
True.
But when Wike fires back while physically pointing to a bridge being built or a road being paved, he's establishing a tangible counter-narrative.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Atiku is offering this broad, abstract critique, claiming nothing positive is happening. But Wike is using visible progress to make that criticism look fundamentally out of touch.
Wow. Yeah.
He even challenged Atiku to compare the physical infrastructure in Abuja today with how the city looked when Atiku was vice president from 1999 to 2007.
That is such a flex. It's like, don't listen to the guy who failed 20 years ago. Look at the cement I am pouring today.
Exactly. It's highly effective visual communication.
But Wike didn't limit himself to talking about roads, did he? I mean, he got intensely personal.
Oh, very personal.
He called Atiku a serial failure, a serial contestant, and a serial loser.
Yeah, he really went for the jugular there.
He even mocked Atiku's recent statement that the upcoming 2027 election would be his final run for the presidency. Wike sarcastically predicted that Atiku will be right back on the ballot in 2031 at the age of 84.
Right, and Wike's core argument there is that running for president is literally the only mechanism Atiku has left to remain politically relevant.
Wow.
He is trying to paint a picture of a man who, frankly, doesn't know how to do anything else but campaign.
Ouch. But, waiting for an opponent to age out isn't a complete strategy.
Yeah.
And to really understand why the animosity is this deep, We have to look backward. I mean, this feud didn't start over road maintenance in Abuja.
Not even close. We have to rewind to the 2022 People's Democratic Party, or PDP, presidential primary.
The one at the Masjid Abiola Stadium.
Exactly. That primary is the true genesis of the current fracture.
So set the scene for that primary for us. What were the actual numbers?
So the PDP was choosing its presidential candidate. Atiku Abubakar won the ticket, defeating 12 other candidates.
Okay.
He secured 371 votes. Nyesom Wike was the runner-up, pulling in 237 votes.
Which is a solid second place, but a definitive loss.
Right.
But politicians lose primaries all the time, though, and they usually find a way to, fall in line for the general election. Why did this specific loss break the party apart so spectacularly?
Because the fracture didn't actually happen on the convention floor. It happened later during the selection of the running mate.
The VP slot.
Right. Following the primary, the PDP set up a 20-member committee to recommend a vice presidential candidate for Atiku.
Okay.
And out of those 20 committee members, 16 of them voted to recommend Wike for the slot.
Wait, 16 out of 20? That isn't a narrow margin. That is an overwhelming mandate from the party insiders.
It was a very clear directive, but Atiku bypassed the committee's recommendation entirely.
He just ignored it.
Completely ignored the vote and chose the Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa instead. And for Wike and his allies, this wasn't just a difference in campaign strategy. It was viewed as a calculated, deeply unforgivable snub.
I mean, I can see why. It sounds like doing all the heavy lifting on a massive corporate account, right? You get 16 out of 20 partners to vote for your promotion to executive VP.
Exactly.
And then the CEO just hands the job to the person in the next cubicle. You don't just forgive that. You actively plot to take your clients and burn the department down.
That is a perfect comparison. And in the political realm, taking your clients means taking your voting blocks.
Right.
Wike mobilized immediately. He pulled together 4 other sitting PDP governors, Samuel Ordom of Benue, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi of Enugu, Okezie Ikpeazu of Abia, and Say Makinde of Owerri.
And together they formed what became known as the G5 governors, right?
Yes, exactly, the G5.
But, I mean, how much damage can 5 governors really do to a national presidential campaign? Nigeria is a massive country.
You'd be surprised. In the Nigerian political system, state governors command immense logistical power.
Really? Like how so?
Well, they direct local party structures, they influence local government chairmen, and they hold sway over millions of voters in their respective states.
Oh, wow. So they have massive ground game.
Exactly. So when the G5 withheld their support from Atiku's presidential campaign, they were essentially turning off the tap for grassroots mobilization in the South.
Man, that is brutal.
It gets worse. Some of them even actively backed rival candidates, including Bola Tinubu from the All Progressives Congress, the APC, which is the current ruling party.
Wait, they backed the opponent? So they basically dismantled the campaign from the inside.
Pretty much.
Do we have the hard data on what that rebellion actually cost Atiku in the 2023 election?
We do, and the numbers are stark. In that election, Atiku pulled 6,984,520 votes.
Okay.
While President Tinubu secured 8,794,726 votes to win the presidency.
So that is a margin of about 1.8 million votes.
Yes. A gap that analysts widely agree was significantly impacted by the G5's rebellion.
That makes sense.
Yeah, if 5 entire states' worth of political machinery hadn't been actively working against the PDP in the South, the electoral map would have looked very, very different.
So Wike basically proved that if he wasn't allowed on the ticket, he had the structural leverage to ensure the ticket failed entirely.
Exactly.
It's very, you thought you didn't need me, let me show you exactly what happens when you don't have me.
Yeah, that sums it up perfectly.
That definitely explains the bad blood.
Yeah.
But, Wike isn't just relying on his own 2022 grievances to take down Atiku today.
Yeah.
He is actively utilizing Atiku's entire political resume against him, specifically his habit of changing political parties.
Oh, the party hopping is a central pillar of Wike's current attack strategy.
Oh.
He is really targeting what the source text refers to as the credibility gap.
Okay, let's walk through Atiku's timeline since 1999, because it's genuinely dizzying.
It really is a lot to keep track of.
So it starts at the PDP,
Yeah.
then he jumps to the Action Congress, then he goes back to the PDP, then he crosses over to the APC, then he goes back to the PDP again. And now, as he gears up for 2027, he is aligning with a new opposition coalition called the African Democratic Congress, or the ADC.
Right, and Wike is very quick to point out that every single one of those transitions was linked to Atiku's ambition to secure a presidential ticket.
It's never about ideology. It's about the ticket.
Exactly. In fact, Wike laid the groundwork for this argument during a media parlay back in August 2024. He argued that Atiku left the PDP not because of some grand ideological principle, but simply because Atiku calculated he couldn't secure their presidential ticket anymore.
Wike even brought in some heavy artillery from the past to back that up, didn't he?
He did. He reminded everyone of quotes from former President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Right, and Obasanjo was Atiku's boss when Atiku was vice president.
Yes, and Obasanjo publicly questioned Atiku's character, literally labeling him a failure.
Man. So Wike is just dragging all of this historical baggage right back into the spotlight.
Which poses a fascinating question about voter psychology.
Yeah, it really does. Like, if a politician changes parties this many times, at what point does the electorate stop seeing a determined reformer and start seeing someone who treats political parties like rental cars?
Rental cars.
Yeah, like you drive the car till it runs out of gas, ditch it at the airport, and just rent a new one for the next leg of your presidential road trip.
Ha! That rental car dynamic is precisely what Wike wants the voters to focus on.
Right.
Because when a politician has previously referred to a party like the APC as his last bus stop, only to leave that party and board a new bus a few years later, voter fatigue naturally sets in.
Definitely.
By bringing up Obasanjo's quotes and mapping out this endless history of party hopping, Wike is framing Atiku's 2027 bid not as a rescue mission for the country, but as the tired, repetitive vanity project of a man who simply cannot let go of his personal ambitions.
Okay, but if you're Wike, and you've already defeated Atiku's campaign in 2023 by using the G5, why go to all this effort right now? I mean, the next election isn't until 2027.
That's a great question.
What is the immediate threat level that requires bringing out this kind of heavy artillery during a routine road inspection?
Well, the threat level changed dramatically just 2 days before Wike delivered those attacks.
Oh, really? What happened?
That new opposition coalition we mentioned, the ADC, held a massive national convention. And they brought incredible political heavyweights under one roof.
Like who?
We're talking Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and Rotimi Amaichi.
Whoa. Those aren't just minor regional players.
Not at all. They command massive voting blocs.
Yeah.
Peter Obi galvanized a huge youth movement during the last election cycle. Rabiu Kwankwaso holds immense influence in Kano, which is a critical northern voting stronghold.
Okay, so the prospect of these figures actually uniting is a genuine structural threat to the current administration.
Absolutely.
So this is like watching an all-star super team forming in the off-season of a sport.
Yes.
And the defending champions immediately launch a highly coordinated PR campaign to disrupt the locker room before a single game is even played.
It is entirely preemptive sabotage.
Brilliant.
But Wike has another tool at his disposal to disrupt this coalition, and it is deeply rooted in the geographic rules of Nigerian politics.
Oh, the rotational presidency.
Yes, we have to look at the concept of the rotational presidency.
How does that unwritten rule actually work in practice? Yeah. Because this seems to be where the physical map becomes the political territory.
So, in Nigerian political culture, there's a fiercely defended principle that the presidency should rotate between the north and the south of the country.
Okay, to keep things fair.
Right. It is designed to ensure regional balance and fairness in a nation with immense ethnic and geographic diversity. The current president, Bola Tinubu, is from the south.
And Atiku Abubakar is from Adamawa State, which is in the northeast.
Exactly. The pressure point Wike is pressing.
Ah, I see.
Former PDP Governor Samuel Ordom, who, remember, was one of Wike's key G5 allies, recently articulated a view held by a massive portion of Southern voters.
What does he say?
He argued that power must remain in the South for a full 8 years before it rotates back to the North.
Okay, so Wike sits at this incredibly powerful intersection. He delivered Rivers State to the ruling APC in 2023, so he bridges Lagos political interests and Abuja institutional power.
Yes.
How does he use the rotational rule against Atiku's new super team?
By loudly mocking Atiku's ambitions right as this ADC coalition is forming, Wike is planting seeds of division.
Smart.
He is highlighting Atiku's northern heritage against the southern demand for an 8-year rotation.
He's basically driving a wedge in there.
Exactly. He is essentially signaling to southern voters, If you support this ADC coalition with Atiku at the helm, you are voluntarily giving away your region's turn at the presidency.
Wow.
He is making Atiku look geographically and politically untenable to a huge block of the electorate who demand their full 8 years.
So what we are looking at isn't just a war of words in the press, it is structural warfare.
It really is.
Wike is using physical infrastructure, literally pouring concrete, as a shield to deflect abstract criticisms.
Right.
And he is using Atiku's history of party hopping and the unwritten rules of geographic rotation as swords to cut down this new coalition before it can even gain momentum.
The strategy operates on multiple levels simultaneously. It protects the current administration's image while systematically dismantling the opposition's unity.
That's wild to watch.
It is. Watching Nigeria's 2027 race unfold really is a universal masterclass in political survival.
Yeah.
No matter where you, the listener, happen to live, understanding politics requires looking past the daily noise and the angry quotes.
You really have to dig deep.
You have to see how politicians weaponize history, how they manipulate timing, and how they exploit structural rules to maintain their grip on power.
Well, we started today by looking at a bitter 2022 fight over vice presidential slot. And we've unraveled how that single moment of corporate-style backscabbing escalated into a multi-million vote proxy war that is actively shaping the 2027 electoral map.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. But before we wrap up, there is a glaring contradiction in the source notes that we really need to acknowledge.
Oh, yes. It is a contradiction that changes how you view the entire conflict.
Wike has viciously attacked Atiku's integrity. He has attacked his party loyalty, and he has mocked his relentless presidential ambition.
Yeah.
Yet Wike himself was a presidential aspirant in 2022.
He was.
And when the party didn't give him the vice presidential ticket, he formed a coalition that actively sabotaged his own party's nominee, ultimately supporting a candidate from a rival party.
Right. The G5 rebellion was, by definition, an act of party disloyalty.
So it leaves us with a lingering question. Does a political operator who actively sabotaged his own party really have the moral authority to judge the loyalty and the ambition of anyone else?
That is the big question.
I mean, you flip the chessboard because you're mad you didn't get the queen,
Yeah.
but then you lecture the other player about not respecting the rules of the game.
It is a staggering level of political audacity.
It really is. And that is something for you to ponder as this road to 2027 continues to unfold and as these heavyweights keep finding new ways to flip the board. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narratives, keep looking at the moves beneath the surface, and we will see you next time.